We are live. I apologize for being a few minutes late. I literally thought I sent Heather a invite, but I never did. So, it happened, but that's my fault. So, Heather was there ready, waiting for me, and here I was waiting for her. And it's all because I didn't send an invite. End of year burnout. Okay, this is perfect for this topic. Okay. Memory is one of the first things to go, right? Okay, so we're right on today. At least I am. All right. So let's talk about this a little bit. You can hear my voice is a little raspy, not sick, just a little sinusy stuff going on. But this is the time of year where we get sick, we get stressed out, we uh, eat things that we normally don't eat. Right? Everything looks tempting right now. I'm not a sugary kind of sweet guy, but this time of year, it's just very appealing. We're traveling, right? We're going to be traveling for the holidays, so there's just a lot going on. And I'll be honest with you, people get burned out real quick here. Tempers a little bit, fuses a little bit shorter. We see symptoms like sinusy stuff happen, all that stuff. So let's talk about this, Heather. You're seeing the same stuff. I know you are, but talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing kind of this time of year, and what are some of the things that you're looking for as a healthcare practitioner for burnout, whether that be in the parents or the kids. What are you looking for?
Well, one of the we've gotten a lot more questions from parents about issues in their relationships right now. And the thing is, they're 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 they maybe have already had those things, but then they start escalating at this time of year. But the thing is that parental burnout is real. We know that job burnout is real, but parental burnout is a real thing. It's being talked about a lot um, as the pandemic happened and more people were homeschooling and all of that. But
Yep.
when we are burned out as parents, and it doesn't make you a bad parent, it leads to decreased attunement with the kids. Really being not just I love you, but I see you. I really
Mm,
see you. That connection and that, picking up on all the stuff that's not being said. And so, and then also parents put so much pressure on themselves for, perfect parenting is not a thing. It's like we do the best we can, and when we know better, we do more, and we own up our mistakes. That's such a good example for our kids. But then there's an extra thing to be perfect about. Perfect holiday. Did I get my kids all the stuff they needed? There's no such thing as a perfect holiday. The extra pressure that we put on ourselves, but when we can keep it focused on values. But that's one of the biggest things is there has been a bit more of this going on with some parents and kids, and
mm.
that is related to stress and burnout largely.
Yes, yeah. Whether it's the parents or the parents, and kids, whatever it may be. There's that. I want to talk a little bit about you mentioned that as we burn out. So this is a natural response, is to kind of withdraw a little bit, right? So we're not as in tune with maybe everything that's going on, and we start to miss things, or we're just not. We don't realize that we're not in tune. That's kind of a big one, right? Like I know parents are always just they're doing their best, but you can only be pulled so many directions so fast for so long before the brain just is like, I can't keep up. Do you have suggestions for parents who, I have lost a little bit of a touch with my kids, or maybe I'm just not in tune with them as much as I normally would be. Do you have any suggestions for them?
Yes. One
I know
is
you do.
something we talk about quite a bit, but what can you say no to? If you say yes to something else, you're saying no to something else. That is not just about holiday plans, by the way. Um,
Mm,
do, do, do you have to make cookies for every single bake sale? You like you said, you can only be
yes.
pulled in so many different directions. There needs to be time for the pause, to
Mm,
be still, have fun, and engage. Engagement prevents burnout, or it helps start turning it around if it's already happening. And once you're burned out, then the attunement stops. So it's very important to have times during what a great time during the holidays to get reattuned. And sometimes we think that, well, we're going to have more time with family than usual right now because we're taking off work and it's like family time. That's all great. It is not the same thing as
mm.
one-on-one time with your kids, with aunts, uncles, cousins. That's group stuff. It's very important. It's part of the personal narrative. There needs to be the one-on-one parental thing going on at the same time. And another thing is, I know during holidays, a lot of our families in the past have they let their kids do more screen time during the
Mm,
holiday break because they don't have homework.
yep.
I highly recommend, if you there are good things to do on screens. It's not like everything's evil. It's everything in moderation. That can pull you further apart. And then when you reinstill the limits and boundaries on screen time when school starts, now you've got another battle. So it's a
Mm,
good time to hit the reset button, have a family meeting, talk about what was your favorite part of the year, what is something that could have made this year better,
mm.
setting goals as a family for the new year, coming up with a new ritual or tradition that you're going to start with the kids involved in that. It is just time for engagement one-on-one. Do not, on your tally in your head, not that you're keeping it, but don't count the time when there are 30 people in the family in one house. That does not replace that one-on-one.
Mm. And I like to go back myself and just say, hey, you know what? This is the time to keep routines too, right? Like, look, we want to stay up and watch, Buddy the Elf and all those good movies, but once we get out of the swing, I mean, it happens with us too. We get out a few nights, we're socializing with people, all great things. We go past our bedtime, kids get burned out, we get burned out, and so just sticking to some bedtime routines, some other things can be really good about just kind of keeping some of that burnout reduced.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I love too, every family I've ever talked to, I've suggested this to, and they've done it, has talked about how amazing it was, so much more than they even expected. But we talk about journaling a lot. Having your own journal, kids having your own journal is fantastic. That is self-regulate. The act of writing it is self-regulating. And sometimes I can get thoughts onto paper that I can't express verbally. But I love the idea of parent and child sharing a journal. You putting a little note or any thought. It can be a quote. It can be, I saw this and thought of you. What do you think about it? And
Yeah.
sometimes you're just sort of flipping the script a little bit. Something, if you've gotten into some bad patterns, you are creating a new pattern that they don't go to knee jerk no, or defiance or something. Now it's in writing, and they are forced. One really great thing about writing is that you are forced to hit a brake pedal before you put something down. So something, if you have kids who blurt things out because of impulse control issues, when you're writing something, the very nature of that can cause them to really process their thoughts better and not be reactive. And you actually might get engagement going on a different level. It's really fun. And there's this little, our brains light up and we have things to look forward to. So when that is a loving, positive journal, I wonder what my parents wrote in it this time. And just that little bit of anticipation really impacts the chemical messengers in the brain. It just can really be a great way to reset.
100%. I like that. One of the things that we've done is, and we do it towards basically the end of our week, though, when we're kind of relaxing a little bit more, is Chat has wanted to play checkers. And so we've been teaching him checkers, and they really want to play Uno. So it's a fun game. We're not on a screen, nothing against screens again, but, it's something where he's learning, he's anticipating, and my son's very competitive. So he gets to beat dad. And so that's a lot of fun for him. So, but going back to some of the classic stuff can be a lot of fun for them as well. They don't, I grew up playing checkers with my grandfather, so that idea of we just didn't have as many screens when I was growing up, 30 plus years ago. So now there's just screens everywhere, and that's such an easy babysitter. But also they crave it, like we've talked about, right? They like that dopamine hit, so they want it. We want the few seconds to ourselves, and so we go there. But we have found checkers and some card games to be fun, and it gives us an opportunity to teach them and get them thinking too, and they really like that.
I love board games. They're such a lost art. I mean, that's growing up. Yeah, that was such a regular thing in so many families. I
Mm-hmm.
love games that are really good conversation starters, like Never Have I Ever, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, and and then you're telling the story behind it, or you're learning things about other people. That's such a great connection thing. That then is also growing social skills and teaching kids to start realizing I have commonality with every person I come in contact with. There's something. It's such a good
Yeah.
just connectivity in general. I also like Would You Rather, and you can make this. Kids love this, and you can make some really silly, goofy ones. Had you rather be invisible or had you rather be able to read each other's minds? Why? And you're laughing and joking, but they're also thinking about their thinking. They're thinking about, you're learning things about their likes and dislikes. They're learning to express it. They're learning more about you, and it's good human connection. So games like that are so fantastic too.
And you could play those in the car too, right? They don't require a board, right? So they can be anywhere. They can be in
That's
line
right.
waiting for Santa. So
That's right.
excuse me, lots of good stuff. All right, so what are some things? Let's backtrack. So we talked a little bit. I think one of the more important things too for parents, including my own self. So this is the mirror looking at me. It's just the one-on-one connection, especially with your significant other, right? If assuming you have one, right? Like just the ability to connect, make sure we're on the same page, spend a little quiet time together, whether that's watching a movie or going to watch, whatever date or whatever you're doing, stepping away from the kids for a little bit. So I know we tend to spend a little bit more money this time of year, and you're like, I don't know if it doesn't have to be crazy, just has to be together, right? And so I think that's a great way to negate some of the burnout, because as parents, we're just being pulled. We have all the same stressors, right? But we're just this time of year is just overwhelming for a lot of people. I got a lot
It
of
is.
parents coming in, bags under their eyes, all this stuff. So glad this is for the parents more than the kids right now sometimes. So
My bags are due to age, not burnout. But yes. But yeah, it's so important to have that couple time. And you need one-on-one time with your child. You also need one-on-one time with your significant other.
yeah.
You also need time to yourself.
Yeah.
Self-care. What are interests that you have? What are whether it's philanthropy is great to do as a family, but do you have certain causes that mean a lot to you? Do you have certain hobbies that just stir your soul that you've given up? It's always important to keep in touch with who we are apart from the roles we fill. That does not make you selfish. It makes you a better spouse, a better parent, because you come back rejuvenated and able to attune. And we need self-maintenance, of course, eating right, exercise, sleep, those kinds of things. But that is self-maintenance. If you don't just inherently love the exercise class you're taking, that's maintenance. You need stuff that stirs your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so important. And kids need to see that too. I mean, you're showing boundaries, and even if you're like
important.
that, I talked to my mom the other day. I can't do that. If you have a husband who's deployed or wife, or and got a newborn and this and that, you can also do things like when the music, this is mommy time, and as long as you hear this music playing, that means it's mommy time. And then tell them what emergencies would qualify to interrupt that, but anything else waits. You can also use a color. You can have a color coded thing on the door. When it's red, that means no. Green means come on in. But she would go take a bubble bath. She couldn't leave the house, but bubble bath and listening to her favorite music, that's still self-care. So again, it doesn't mean money or having to be able to plan something elaborate.
Yeah, I just made it a priority to do exercise. Like I put some headphones in and I push some weights, and that's my therapy, or sort of say, you know what I mean? Like that's my alone time where I can just, no one's talking to me. I don't have to do anything. There's no requests. And I don't want that to come across as negative, right? It's just, we see lots of people and we have kids and all this stuff. There's a lot of demand on you, right? So just to not have to answer any questions, answer why, all the time. It's just nice, I get to do it and I get to go work out and feel good. And it's my, my form of self-care, right? Physically and mentally.
Oh yeah. I mean, what's better than I love going for hikes. I mean, you got the outdoors, you got nature, and you're getting all that sensory input. You're getting your heart going, taking care of your health. Yeah, and I just love it for the sake of loving it, in addition to it being healthy. And so that is self-care. That's maintenance and care at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. We'll go ahead.
I was going to say, you were talking about the importance of time with significant other. Another really helpful thing is when the two of you sit down and pretty much, I don't know of any parent who doesn't have certain things that just come naturally and easily for you as parenting, and you're just very good at it. And then there are other things that you're good at, you can do them, but you just kind of dread them, and they're sort of energy draining to you. I do shows with Corey and Jen Warren, husband and wife, awesome dynamic duo, and he does a ton of the cooking. He cannot stand cleaning the reusable plastic straws that they use in their health shakes and stuff. For Jen, there's just something therapeutic. She doesn't mind. And so they
Right.
had these conversations and swapped out certain tasks, and that has been so rejuvenating for them. So not assuming that a chore that you dread, maybe it's no big deal to your spouse. Even if they don't like it, it just doesn't drain them the same way. Those are ways to show such compassion and collaboration and help each other stay on even footing too.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. We both hate laundry though, so we got to figure that one out.
What's the what? I thought that's why you had Chet, man. Come on,
Yeah.
get to getting.
Come on, Chad. Come on, we need your help, buddy. Shoot, I had an idea. What was it? Oh yeah, sorry. I was just gonna point to. I have a Whoop, which if you don't know what that does, it tracks your heart rate and temperature and sleep and all this fun stuff. So it kind of it's big brother on what your overall health is, right? And so I track it, and I found that when I exercise and I do some meditation afterwards in the sauna, I always sleep better. My recovery is better. Everything is better. So it just goes to speak like, you could actually, if you wanted to, you could actually gauge your improvement. And so I've noticed anywhere from a 20 to 30% improvement in sleep and recovery. So it pays its dividends. That hour in the gym is well worth the mental and physical benefits of it.
Mm-hmm. There are times just to do nothing.
That's
By
good.
the way,
Sometimes.
I mean, just like that mommy time example I gave, during that time, kids have to learn how to entertain themselves. There's so much creativity and problem solving. Having quiet time every Sunday afternoon or whenever it is for your family, where it's not a punishment. And talk to kids about why it's important, and they don't have to sleep, but they play quietly in their room. Maybe you don't want them to have a Jenga set in their room if their room's close to yours. But doing this on the regular, not just once you're feeling drained and exhausted. And one of the ways you can know that people have asked me, is burnout the same as depression? Depression is all encompassing. It is not context specific. Burnout is when you're feeling this irritation, fatigue, numbness. It's something specific, your job or in their parenting role, etc. And that's one of the ways you can know that. Oh, but you kind of take care of it. How would you take care of a physical illness? If you have fever and you're sick, you need to rest. You need your might be eating stuff that has a lot of nutrients in it. Think about burnout as that. And there's also a thing called compassion fatigue. I know a lot of people have guilt over feeling burnout as a parent. Like, what does that say about me? It might say you're extremely empathetic and extremely conscientious, because some of the individuals who are the most likely to feel burnout are the ones who are so invested in their children and feel everything, the empaths, they feel everything so hugely that, this happens in the healthcare field, in the medical field,
Lots of burnout.
So many. And it actually might speak really highly of you, but the big message there is you have to have the same empathy. Empathy for yourself is in research, and it makes sense. It can completely change that. Just because you're empathetic does not mean you are destined to burnout. As long as you learn that self-compassion, that evens it out to where the burnout doesn't have to happen.
And back to a previous point we made a few weeks ago was you can't give what you don't have, right? So if you don't have any, if you've run out and you don't have any empathy, empathy for yourself, it's going to be hard for you to be empathetic with other people, right? Like there's just a point where you just need a good reset, or you need to kind of collect yourself again. And so you just can't give what you don't have. That's just a rule. Okay, awesome. I'm burnt out, so my brain is not functioning very well today. But is there anything else that you would like to talk on or touch on as far as burnout goes?
I don't think so. I think that's a really kind of good summation of it. And just take care of yourself. I know people. I think people know intuitively. Yeah, that makes sense. I'll do it later. Do it now.
Do it now. Yeah.
I'll do it after I do this. will you really? There's all, if you wait for the perfect time to do it, it's going to keep getting pushed back, and that's what led to the burnout in the first place. You deserve it, and it will bring you back to whole so that you have more to give your kids. I'm so sorry, my dog will not be still and is moving my computer.
It's okay. I got a phone call too. So we're this is just it's just end of year stuff. All right. Yeah, I think the main prior or the main point that I wanted to drive across, and I think we've done a good job of that, is just, as much as you want to give to your kids and be there, you have to center yourself and be there for yourself first. Because it always goes back to the airline. You put your mask on first, and you can put theirs on second. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing selfish. I think that's an important thing to remember too. There's nothing selfish about taking care of yourself. You just simply cannot be there for everybody all the time. And if you prioritize your own health, it's a great example for your kids, your significant other, everybody else. That's very, very important. And so, but I also want to thank you, Heather, for bringing up the difference between depression and burnout, because it didn't even occur to me, but that is a common thing, right? Like, am I depressed or am I burned out? I don't know. And so highlighting that is very, very important. This is a time of year where both are high at this time, right? Like, there's an increase in depression, and there's an increase in burnout. And so there's a lot of confusion, and so highlighting that was very important. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of it comes from what I should have done. I was supposed to do this. Shaming and guilting yourself is another part of that. So just know you are the best parent you can possibly. You can't even be the best all the time. You can be the best you have to give in that moment, and the more you do take care of this, the better that is. There are articles even that are looking at research saying be a good enough parent. And it doesn't mean skating by on minimums. It means when we try to be the perfect parents, we teach kids unintentionally that performance is what makes you good enough, and then it leads to their anxiety about things and feeling like human doings instead of human beings. If we're not in touch with who we are aside from our roles, how do we teach our kids self-awareness? So yeah, I just so agree with what you said.
And also another thing that I've seen with that is perfection is the only acceptable marker of success, right? Like, everything has to be perfect all the time. And there are things that we should always strive to be our best at, right? And do our best and all that stuff. But the idea that, when you think that you need to be the perfect parent all the time, whether or not you consciously or subconsciously convey that, it gets out, right? Like, we just see it. And believe it or not, no, you should believe it, but there's moments where I'm like, we just talked about this on the podcast, and I just did the opposite of what we talked about, right? So I'm like, should I really be talking? But it's not about perfection. It's just about trying to better, right? Like, I slip, I fall. I'm like, okay, that was not the appropriate response, or that's not what I should have done. I know what to do. So next time I just put that up there as a priority to make sure I do it this next time. So believe me, I've had that thought, like, yeah, we just talked about this last week, and here I am, I'm messing up, like, if only they could see me. It's not about perfection. It's just about being a parent, right? And being the best parent you can be. So, but that does not require perfection.
Now, I've told you before that when we talk about self-care, I do the best I can to follow everything we talk about, the advice that we share. The one thing I absolutely did not do as a mother was self-care. And I wish I had. I'm trying to help others not make the mistake I made. My uncle, he's always been concerned about that because I have so many people I take care of, and my parents have been their caregiver for 21 years. And the other saying that goes with the way he says it is, if the cow runs out of milk, ain't nobody got anything to drink. And I said, are you calling me a cow? And he said, I knew you were going to say that. But anyway, that was the whole point. And I've kept that in mind. There's something about that funny saying. And I also respect my Uncle Ray and love him so much that I do try to take those moments when I can.
100%. So again, parents, it's not about perfection. It's just, you're learning, right? There's no script. There's no book. There's no, there may be some templates out there, like some people that you're like, oh, they were a really good parent, I want to mimic that. But again, they weren't perfect themselves either. So we do the best we can. But take care of yourself, okay? Because, your kids need you. My kids need me. And if we're burnt out, stressed out, that impacts us, right? And so it impacts our longevity, our day-to-day living. So take care of you. Okay. All right. We have a couple announcements. One is we will be changing the time. Okay. It'll still be Thursdays, but we're going to move to 1. The reason being I asked Heather to do this because my Thursdays are full. Okay. So I always end here with a waiting room full of people waiting for me. So just so that I'm not stressed about that, right? And they're not waiting for me too long. We're going to move it to 1. It'll still be recorded, the same format, all that good stuff. We are always happy to answer questions. If for whatever reason that time doesn't work, we can always change. But that's what we decided. So we'll move it from Thursdays at 3:15 to 1 o'clock. And it'll still be great and amazing. And maybe I'll be more rejuvenated because it's 1 o'clock. And that's the only announcement that I have. But Heather has another amazing podcast, Tuesdays at 11, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And this Tuesday, we are talking about widely lauded parenting techniques that actually can lead to materialism in our kids unintentionally. There's so much research that shows us that materialism in kids translates into them as unhappy adults. It doesn't just impact them in the here and now. It has many negative impacts, and how that happens unintentionally, and to teach them what matters.
Materialism is the infinite chase, right? There's always more, unfortunately, and so that's a good topic. I like that one. We'll have to share that to our page. Okay, awesome. So, but make sure you follow that. And Heather, where do they find that podcast?
At the Hidden Churn or Brain Balance of the Woodlands, Katy, Mansfield, or South Lake on both Facebook and Instagram. Perfect.
So go follow those pages. Go check that out. Tuesday at 11. We will be back. Let's see. That would be the 6th, right? January 6th. So we're done for the remainder of the year. We're going to rejuvenate ourselves, right? So we're going to take a little bit of self-care here, and we will be back the first Thursday of the month. My request to y'all is if you have a topic you want us to talk about, generic or specific, please make sure that you leave a comment or message us directly. I would love to hear something that you all want to hear about. I'm still happy to pick topics, but I also want to hear from y'all. So please share that with us. All right.
I like it.
Heather, thank you as always. Thank you for the guidance that you provide, the resources you provide to the families in your area. So that's it for us today. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.